People love saying Buddhism is peaceful, but if you actually apply it to sex, it gets brutally honest fast. Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most spiritual advice about sex is making people worse. It doesn't create clarity. It creates shame. And shame doesn't make you ethical. It makes you secretive. So, let's cut the fantasy right now. Buddhism is not against sex. What Buddhism is against is the unconscious version of it. When craving runs the show, when attachment turns intimacy into a drug, and when desire is just anxiety wearing lingerie. And if that sounds harsh, good, because it's also freeing. A lot of people aren't addicted to sex. They're addicted to relief. Relief from loneliness, relief from stress, relief from feeling not enough. So they chase pleasure, and then wonder why they feel emptier 5 minutes later. Now here's the part that flips the table. The answer isn't abstinence, and it isn't do whatever you want. The answer is awareness. Because the moment you bring mindfulness into sexual desire, the game changes. Suddenly you can feel sexual energy without becoming its employee. In this video, you're going to learn the middle way of desire, how to keep the fire, drop the compulsion, set boundaries that don't kill the mood, and make consent feel natural, not like paperwork. And you'll get a practical reset you can test today, in under 90 seconds, to break the craving loop before it hijacks you. So forget the question, is sex allowed? The real question is, when desire shows up, are you present or are you unconscious? Before we go deeper, do me a quick favor. If you've ever felt stuck between shame and impulse, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, not because the algorithm demands it, but because this is the kind of clarity most people never get taught. All right, let's get into it. A person learns fast that calling desire dirty doesn't solve anything. It just upgrades the problem into shame. From a Buddhist lens, sexual desire isn't a monster. It's raw energy, like fire in a kitchen. Fire can cook a meal or burn the house down, and the difference is the hand on the dial. And honestly, fighting desire all day often works like, don't think about a pink elephant. Good luck with that. So the first move is simple. Drop the self-judgment and look at desire as it is, not as a courtroom drama. When the mind gets anxious, sexuality can turn into a quick exit door. Automatic, fast, and a little too convenient. A practical practice. Before acting, the person takes 10 slow breaths and names what's actually happening. Is this arousal? Loneliness? Boredom? Stress? That label alone can cut the impulse in half. If they want a real test, they wait 15 minutes and do something physical. A cold shower, stretching, a short walk. It's not repression, it's getting the steering wheel back, because nobody deserves to be driven by a hungry reflex. Little by little, they notice something uncomfortable but freeing. Unconscious desire turns into pressure, and pressure kills tenderness. With awareness, desire becomes presence. Listening to the body, respecting limits, and keeping dignity non-negotiable. And here's the twist. When they stop chasing sensation, intimacy often becomes deeper, calmer, and strangely more alive. The question stops being, am I allowed, and becomes, does this bring me closer to myself or further away? And that's exactly where the next thread starts pulling. How to turn impulse into clarity without freezing life. A person starts noticing the real problem isn't desire. It's craving that grabs the mind by the collar. Craving is desire with panic in it. I need this now or I won't be okay, and that's attachment in disguise. With mindfulness and awareness, they learn to watch the wave rise without immediately jumping into it. That shift alone brings clarity, because the body can feel sexual energy without the mind turning it into a command. And yes, it's oddly relieving to discover they can feel a lot, and still choose with self-mastery. A practical method. They do mindful breathing for 90 seconds, slow in, slower out, like cooling hot tea. Then they ask one grounded question. What do I actually want? Pleasure, intimacy, or comfort from anxiety? If it's intimacy, they practice presence, eye contact, honest words, and consent that feels clean, not pressured. If it's anxiety, They regulate first, walk, journal, shower, because a calmer nervous system makes better choices. This is the middle way in real life. Not repression, not chaos, just balance with compassion. They also learn boundaries aren't walls, they're guardrails that protect connection from impulsive crashes. So they set simple rules: no late-night scrolling when lonely, no flirty texting when emotionally raw, no maybe consent. That isn't moralism, it's ethical living as strategy. Fewer regrets, more dignity, deeper intimacy. And when the mind whispers, "But I'll miss out," they answer with awareness. I'm choosing peace over compulsion, which quietly opens the next piece. What happens when desire meets real relationships, especially attraction, dating, and honesty? A person realizes attraction is not the problem, confusion is. Without mindfulness, attraction becomes a hunt, chasing signals, reading silence, negotiating boundaries in their head. With awareness, attraction becomes information. My body is responding, my mind is narrating, and I can stay in presence. That alone changes everything, because sexual energy stops being a bargaining chip and becomes a natural current. And yes, dating gets easier when they stop treating chemistry like a contract. They practice a simple clarity script that sounds human, not robotic. I'm attracted to you, and I want intimacy, slowly. They ask for consent in a way that builds connection. Is this okay? Do you want to pause? What feels good for you? It's amazing how much compassion can be sexy, because safety is attractive when it's genuine. And if the other person plays games, they use self-mastery. No chasing, no proving, no emotional acrobatics. That's the middle way in dating. Open heart, steady spine, balance over drama. Craving loves ambiguity, because ambiguity keeps hope alive and attachment fed. So they choose honest signals. If they want a relationship, they don't pretend they just want something casual. If they want something casual, they don't sell it as love. Ethical living means not borrowing someone's feelings for fun. This kind of clarity reduces suffering without turning anyone into a monk overnight, and it sets up the next part perfectly. What to do when desire turns repetitive, compulsion, habits, and the traps that hijack awareness. A person eventually notices the difference between I want and I can't stop. That's where craving turns into a loop. Same trigger, same behavior, same empty feeling after. Buddhism calls it attachment with momentum, like a cart rolling downhill, not evil, just unattended. With mindfulness and awareness, they stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What's driving me?" Because the fastest path to clarity is curiosity, not self-hate. Early practical reset. They map the pattern in 3 lines. Trigger, feeling, action. Trigger, lonely at night. Feeling, anxiety. Action, scrolling, fantasizing, chasing a hit of pleasure. Then they change one small piece, not their entire personality. No phone in bed, 5 minutes of mindful breathing, lights out earlier. They add a replacement that respects the body. Stretching, reading, a warm shower, anything that brings presence back. This is self-mastery without drama. Tiny wins repeated until the nervous system trusts them again. They also practice clean boundaries with people and content because the mind is shaped by what it consumes. If porn or compulsive content is part of the loop, they don't fight it with willpower alone. They reduce friction, blockers, time limits, schedule, and they rebuild intimacy in real life. Honest conversation, touch with consent, connection that doesn't feel like a transaction. That's compassion applied, not "I'm broken," but I'm training my attention like a muscle, 1 rep at a time. And once the loop starts loosening, the next layer appears naturally. How to keep desire alive while choosing ethical living, without becoming rigid or dull. A person learns that ethical living isn't a purity contest, it's a strategy for peace. Without ethics, desire becomes messy. With too much rigidity, desire becomes scared. So they return to the middle way, choices that protect clarity without punishing the body. They keep mindfulness close, because it prevents the mind from turning sex into performance or conquest. And they practice compassion, especially when old patterns try to negotiate their standards. A practical compass. Before any sexual decision, they ask 3 questions. Is there honest consent, clear, enthusiastic, and free of pressure? Are my boundaries respected, and am I respecting theirs? Will I feel more presence afterward, or more fog and attachment? This sounds simple, but it's powerful because it filters out the situations that create regret, and it keeps sexual energy from becoming a tool for validation. They also learn to speak the truth early, before desire scrambles the brain. If they want exclusivity, they name it. If they don't pretend. Clarity is kindness. They stop using mixed signals, because mixed signals feed craving like sugar feeds a toddler. And when they mess up, they don't spiral into shame, they return to awareness and adjust the next step. Which opens the next part quietly. How this whole approach changes not only sex, but the quality of love, intimacy, and inner freedom. A person begins to notice something surprising. Desire can be a teacher when it's held with mindfulness. It shows where attachment hides. Approval, validation, fear of being left, fear of not being enough. And once they see it clearly, the game changes. They stop using intimacy to patch a wound they never named. They practice awareness in small moments, how they react to rejection, how they cling to attention, how they chase reassurance. That's real clarity, not controlling the world, but understanding the mind. In relationships, they learn that sexual energy multiplies when safety is real. So they make presence the new seduction, phones down, honest talk, slow touch, and consent that feels like trust. They use compassion in conflict. Instead of "you never use," they try "when that happens, my body tenses and I shut down." They protect boundaries the way a musician protects rhythm. Without it, everything turns into noise. And suddenly, the relationship stops being a battlefield of craving and becomes a place where the nervous system can soften. This is where freedom starts tasting practical. They can want someone deeply and still not lose themselves. They can feel desire rise and still choose timing, context and respect, self-mastery without coldness. They can enjoy pleasure without turning pleasure into a requirement for being okay. Less attachment, more balance. And the wild part is, the more honest they become, the less they need masks, games, and mental gymnastics, which sets up the next step naturally. How to put this into daily life as a simple path, so the learning doesn't stay nice ideas. A person discovers that insight is great, but habits are what actually change a life. So they stop trying to fix sexuality in one heroic moment and start training awareness like brushing teeth. 5 minutes of mindful breathing in the morning, just to notice the mind before it starts sprinting. A short pause before acting on craving, just to feel the body and recover clarity. This is the middle way again. Small, consistent practice. No drama, no perfection cosplay. They also set a clean environment for the mind, because attention follows what's easiest. They reduce triggers that hijack sexual energy, late-night scrolling, boredom loops, lonely doom feeds. They protect boundaries with simple systems, phone outside the bedroom, fixed sleep time, content filters if needed, and they replace the old loop with something grounding, exercise, reading, journaling, meditation, whatever builds presence. Not because these things are holy, but because a calmer mind makes better choices about intimacy and pleasure. Finally, they practice one honest conversation per week, real ethical living in speech, not theory. They name desires without pressure, ask for consent without awkwardness, and listen without defensiveness. They treat mistakes with compassion. Okay, noted. Next time, I choose differently, instead of spiraling into shame. And little by little, attachment loosens, not because desire died, but because dignity got stronger than impulse. Which brings us right to the edge of something bigger. What all this means when life tests them. Stress, temptation, loneliness, and real-world chaos. A person eventually sees the real enemy isn't desire, it's stress that quietly hijacks awareness. Under pressure, craving gets louder and attachment starts bargaining. Just this once, I need relief. So they treat temptation like weather. It arrives, it peaks, it passes. If they stay in mindfulness, they don't shame themselves for feeling sexual energy. They just refuse to let it drive blindly. That's clarity in practice. Feelings are allowed. Impulses are negotiated. They build a simple if-then plan, because willpower is unreliable when the nervous system is fried. If loneliness hits at night, then they do mindful breathing for 2 minutes and message a friend before scrolling. If arousal spikes, then they pause, drink water, move the body, and choose with consent, even with themselves. They keep boundaries like guardrails, no risky apps when tired, no flirting when emotionally raw, no secret spirals. This is the middle way, not rigid, not reckless, just smart. They also learn to repair fast. If they slip, they return with compassion, not punishment. They write one sentence, "What triggered me?" and one sentence, "What will I do next time?" That turns relapse into training, and training builds self-mastery without killing intimacy or pleasure. And the more they practice, the more their relationships feel clean. Honest consent, steady presence, less foggy attachment, which opens the next piece naturally: how to talk about sex, needs, limits, fantasies, without fear, awkwardness, or manipulation. A person finds out pretty quickly. Most sexual problems aren't sexual. They're communication problems wearing perfume. Without mindfulness, they hint, test, poke, ghost, or explode, then call it chemistry. With awareness, they speak plainly, because clarity is kinder than mystery when emotions are involved. They learn that consent isn't just a yes, it's a whole atmosphere of safety, respect, and boundaries. And strangely, the more honest they become, the more sexual energy relaxes and becomes real intimacy. A practical tool. They use a simple 3-part script. I feel, I want. Are you open to? Example. I feel close to you. I want more intimacy. Are you open to slowing down and checking in as we go? That turns craving into connection because it removes pressure and reduces attachment to outcomes. They also ask clean questions that build presence. What feels good? What doesn't? Any hard boundaries? And if the answer is not today, they practice self-mastery, no sulking, no bargaining, no guilt trips. They train this like a skill, not a personality trait, and books help a lot. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg is basically compassion with a user manual. Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski brings serious clarity without shame. Attached by Levine and Heller helps spot attachment acting like love. And once they speak this way, the next challenge shows up naturally: fantasy, jealousy, and comparison, without losing the middle way. A person learns that fantasy isn't bad, it's just mind stuff that can either serve clarity or feed craving. With mindfulness, they notice when fantasy is playful and when it becomes a hiding place for attachment. Jealousy usually isn't love. It's fear wearing a dramatic costume, and it loves to steal presence. So instead of fighting the feeling, they bring awareness to it. What am I afraid of losing right now? That question alone softens the grip and makes room for compassion instead of self-judgment. Practically, they use a 3-breath rule before reacting: breathe, name, choose, simple self-mastery. They name the emotion precisely: jealousy, insecurity, loneliness, or just tiredness pretending to be a crisis. Then they set boundaries with their own mind. No snooping, no interrogation, no revenge flirting. If they need reassurance, they ask cleanly with consent for the conversation. Can we talk for 10 minutes? That keeps intimacy from turning into a courtroom and protects sexual energy from becoming a weapon. They also stop comparing their private relationship to other people's public highlight reels. Comparison is pure attachment fuel. A helpful read here is The State of Affairs by Esther Perel, because it brings adult-level clarity about desire and trust. And when fantasy is part of the relationship, they treat it like fire again: safe container, honesty, and mutual consent. That's the middle way, neither repression nor chaos, just balance with real communication, which naturally opens the next piece: what Buddhism actually says about pleasure, when it supports freedom and when it creates suffering. A person starts seeing pleasure the way Buddhism points to it, not as wrong, but as unreliable if it becomes a lifeline. Pleasure is sweet, but it's also slippery. If the mind grabs it with craving, it turns into attachment fast. With mindfulness, they enjoy pleasure without turning it into a demand for being okay. That's real clarity. I can love this moment and still not need it to prove my worth. And that small shift protects intimacy because it removes the pressure to perform, impress, or chase. They learn a simple test. After pleasure, do they feel more presence or more fog and restlessness? If it's presence, pleasure is serving life. If it's fog, pleasure is being used as anesthesia. So they practice slow pleasure, fewer distractions, more breath, more awareness in the body, more consent in every step. It sounds almost too simple, but slow pleasure often increases sexual energy while reducing compulsion. That's the middle way. Not less pleasure, but more conscious pleasure. They also begin to see why shame is such a trap. Shame doesn't create ethics, it creates secrecy. And secrecy feeds attachment, because the mind splits into two, who they are and who they pretend to be. So they choose ethical living as alignment, honest choices, clean boundaries, and compassion for the messy human parts. A helpful book for integrating desire with meaning is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It trains presence without moral panic. And once this clicks, the next step practically asks to be said out loud, building a personal code for sexuality that fits real life. A person eventually understands that winging it with sexuality is expensive, emotionally, mentally, and relationally. So they build a personal code, not to become rigid, but to protect clarity and reduce craving. In Buddhism terms, it's ethical living applied to real life. Fewer regrets, less attachment, more presence. And the best part is, a code doesn't kill sexual energy. It gives it a clean container to breathe. Because when the mind feels safe, desire stops acting like an emergency. They keep the code short, 5 rules max, so it's actually usable on a tired Tuesday night. Example: no sex when I'm emotionally flooded. No secrecy. Clear consent every time. Honor boundaries. Choose the middle way. If they want something practical, they write these rules on a note and review them before dates or vulnerable moments. That's mindfulness as strategy. Training awareness before the wave hits you, not after the crash. And when a situation doesn't fit the code, that's information, not a reason to negotiate with the old impulse. They also add one repair rule, because life happens and humans slip. Repair rule: when I mess up, I tell the truth, I learn the trigger, and I choose one better action next time. That's compassion with backbone, no shame spiral, no fake purity, just honest adjustment. And slowly, the person feels something rare. Desire without fear, intimacy without games, pleasure without chains, which quietly opens the final bridge. Why spiritual advice can actually make sexuality worse. A person notices a weird pattern. The more they try to be spiritual about sex, the more tense they become. Because a lot of modern wisdom sells a silent message. If you still struggle, you're not evolved enough. That message breeds shame, and shame quietly kills mindfulness. It pushes everything into secrecy and attachment. So the person chooses a more Buddhist move. Awareness without self-punishment. Compassion without excuses. That's the middle way. Honest about desire, honest about craving, and still human. They start calling out the real villain. Not sex, but unconscious escape. When sexual energy is used as anesthesia for anxiety, loneliness, or emptiness, craving becomes the boss. But when sexuality is lived with presence, clean boundaries, and real consent, it becomes nourishment, not a hangover. This is why just stop wanting rarely works, because the nervous system wants relief, not philosophy. So the person trains relief in healthier places first, and desire stops acting like a fire alarm. And here's the hook that naturally pulls the listener in. Most people were never taught this. They were taught moralism, repression, or do whatever, but not clarity, not ethical intimacy, not real self-mastery. So when the person finally hears a grounded map, Buddhism without guilt, sexuality without chaos, it feels like forbidden knowledge. Not because it's secret, but because it's simple. And simplicity doesn't sell unless it's delivered the right way. Now it's on you. Will this stay as interesting ideas, or will you actually train mindfulness where it matters? right inside desire. Because the moment craving shows up, you don't need a new personality. You need a new pause. A pause that brings awareness back, restores clarity, and keeps your sexual energy from turning into a hungry autopilot. And if you want a simple rule, choose the middle way. No shame, no chaos, just self-mastery with compassion. So here's your challenge for the next 7 days. Before any impulsive move, do the 90-second reset. Breathe, name it, choose it. Then practice one act of ethical living that protects your future self. Cleaner boundaries, cleaner consent, cleaner honesty. And if you're in a relationship, test real presence. Phones down, eye contact, honest conversation, no pressure, no games. If you're not, test it with yourself. Stop using pleasure as anesthesia and watch how your mind reacts when you refuse to escape. That reaction is the doorway, because that's where attachment reveals its tricks. Now, I want to hear from you. Where do you feel desire turning into craving most often? Late at night when you're stressed? When you feel lonely? Or when you feel rejected? And what's one boundary you know you need, but you keep negotiating with yourself anyway? Be honest in the comments, because your clarity might be the permission someone else needed. If this hit you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because we're going deeper into mindful intimacy, self-mastery, and the real Buddhist approach to freedom, without guilt, without pretending, and without turning your life into a monastery.